Hello there. All right. So today, sorry, my chair is a little squeaky. Today we are talking about music theory, and this is specifically for beginners. So you don't need any musical experience. This is geared toward people who are, new to music or new to singing, just want to know a little bit about music theory. A disclaimer, you do not need to know music theory in order to learn to sing. I'm speaking from personal experience here. I have been singing my entire life, and all that time I was just learning by what we call by rote, or just listening and repeating, mimicking or imitating the singers that I heard. So a lot of you are probably in that boat in the same way that you didn't need to read words written down in order to learn to speak. You can probably sing. So hi, Augustina, Isaiah. No, we've just started. You are not late. We've not dove in just yet. Just giving a little intro here. So I do think that music theory knowledge will be helpful to you, but again, it's not 100% necessary. At the very basic level, all you need to know is if someone sings, you can sing back, we call that matching pitch. And, taking that to a melody maybe, da 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 da. If you can sing along, da 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 da, you're good. However, today we're diving into pitches, notes, keys, key signatures, chords, and how this relates to both your vocal warm-ups and then the songs you sing. So within the video description, I have a bunch of resources, so please just look through that. It is pretty much laid out in order of the topics we're going to cover. So the very first resource I have is musictheory.net, and they have two paid apps that you could use, but all of the resources and lessons on their website are completely free. No ads. They're really wonderfully done, and I highly recommend them. So after this, I encourage you to check out musictheory.net for their lessons, exercises, all of that good stuff. So, very, very first thing, when we say a note, a lot of people are just talking about what we refer to as the pitch. But in reality, a musical note, has two elements. It has both pitch and rhythm. Pitch is the highness or lowness of the note. So, for example, a high pitch, a low pitch. And then rhythm is the duration of that note, how long you're holding it for. So a short rhythm and then a longer rhythm. This is shown in sheet music. If you're sight reading, whether you're singing or playing an instrument, basically you've got a key signature, and then you're also decoding pitches and rhythms to read that music. We are not going to get into sheet music today because we don't need to. We'll talk about music theory basically in the way that it's organized, not necessarily the way that it's notated. So first off, this might be familiar to some of you. Our musical alphabet, it has only A, B, C, D, E, F, G, only 7 pitches to the musical alphabet. So we're going to walk through on the keyboard. I'll have you find some pitches with me. So go ahead and look in the video description. The second resource on your list of resources, we have 2 virtual keyboards for you to choose from. The first, harpkit.com/online tuner. I like this one because if you open it up in a new tab, I like this one because it has the name of the pitch and the scientific pitch notation on the keys themselves. So if you press a key, for example, if you press middle C, the scientific pitch notation of that specific C is C4. So I like that one for that reason, but the other one is also great. So if you click the next link under virtual keyboards, Recursive Arts Virtual Piano, if you click a key, the pitch or the scientific pitch notation will show up above the keyboard. So if, for example, I press any key, I'll just press a random key. Okay, so I clicked a pitch and it told me that's G4. So pick whichever one makes more sense to your brain, and just look at the keyboard with me. You'll see that the keyboard has a bit of a repeating pattern. So you'll see there's 2 black keys, then 3 black keys, 2 black keys, then 3 black keys going up the keyboard. So we'll first find a pitch called A, because that's the start of our musical alphabet, starts at A. So find an A by looking at any set of 3 black keys. And I can't show you my keyboard, so I'm looking at my screen so that we're looking at the same thing. So if you see the 3 black keys, find the white key that is in between the top 2 black keys of the 3. So click around until you can find that. And if you're using HarpKit, this will be very easy for you. You'll just see, oh, A2, A3, or if you scroll down, A4, A5. So click any A pitch. I'm going to choose A3. And let's walk up on the white keys only through the musical alphabet. We have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then you'll notice after G, our musical alphabet repeats. So there's no H note. Once you get to G, the cycle repeats. Also notice, as we walked from A to the next A, we landed on that same spot within the 3 black keys. So what we just walked through from A to A, we call that an octave. We call it an octave because there are 8 steps to get from one A to the next A, or one B to the next B, one B or C to the next C. So let's actually try that now starting on C. So find any C. I will choose C3 to be my starting pitch. And we're going to walk up. We're going to play only the white keys, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. I'm going to count on numbers too, so you can hear the steps. They'll add up to 8. So C is 1, D is 2, E is 3, F would be step 4, G step 5, A step 6, B step 7, and back to C step 8. So what we just played going from C to C is what we call a C major scale. There are different kinds of scales. So we actually already played another kind of scale, a minor scale, when we walked from A to A. That was a different kind of scale, and you'll notice the sound quality is different as well. What we just played is a C major scale. So start on any C and walk up the keyboard until you hit the next C, and you've played a C major scale. I'm starting on C3. So we have a couple different kinds of scales. The one that we use the most, okay, Tanya's asking what website, and we are using sites in the video description. So right now, we've only gotten to the virtual pianos. So we're either using the harp kit or the Recursive Arts virtual pianos. So that's where we're at for now. Okay, so the scale that we use most often in our singing warm-ups is the major scale. We already played it, C to C, that is one kind of major scale. And any major scale follows the same pattern. And the pattern we're talking about is relates to the intervals or the space between two notes. So if I play this C to G, let's say, that's one kind of interval. We call it a perfect fifth. If I play C to C, we already talked about this one. We call that an octave because it's 8 steps. Okay, the first 2 intervals you should learn are called whole steps and half steps, or if you're in the UK, tones and semitones. So find for me any C. So I'm going to choose C4. Starting with a half step or a semitone, if you move from C4 to the very next key in either direction, you'll be playing a half step or a semitone. So if I play C to the note right below it or to the left, I'm playing C4 to B3. That is a half step or a semitone. There's no pitch in between them. You'll see there's no black key in between C and B. Notice that there's also no black key in between E and F. But between all the other white keys, we have these black keys, and we name those a little bit differently. So find C again with me. Click C. And now if you move to the very next pitch up, it's not the white key, it's the black key. So if you go from C up to the right, we call that C sharp. If I move up again to D, the next black key above D is going to be D sharp. Now there's another way to name these black keys, and it depends on the musical key or scale we're using. So this black key between C and D, find that with me. So find C, middle C, go up to C sharp. We can also call that key D flat. So if you're moving down, we call that pitch flatted instead of sharped. So if you move from D, find any D and move to the black key just to the left of it or just below it. Now we'd call that D flat. So the fancy musical term for this is enharmonic. This black key between C and D is sometimes called C sharp, sometimes called D flat, and those are enharmonic equivalents, meaning it's the same pitch. C sharp, D flat, same thing. This will come into play when we get into an actual key and play that scale. So musical alphabet, scientific pitch notation, we talked about just a little bit. If you look at harp kit, it'll show you, C2, C3, C4, C5. This is just a way of organizing pitches in a way that makes sense according to the keyboard and the pitches that the human ear can hear. So intervals, we just went over a half step or a semitone. Now we'll learn what a whole step is. So basic math, a whole step is 2 half steps. So again, find middle C with me, or C4. And if you go up not 1, but 2 half steps, so if you go up 1, that would just be C sharp, go up another half step, and that's D. So from C to D, that's what we call a whole step, or in the UK, they call that a tone. Let's find another kind of whole step. Go to the pitch E for me. So find E, it would be the next white key up. Now find a whole step above E. Notice if I go just 1 half step, I'm at F. If I go another half step, I'm at F sharp. So from E to F sharp, that's a whole step. The major scale is a collection of intervals, and every interval making up the major scale is either a whole step or a half step. So far, you know all you need to know in order to play a major scale. The pattern of a major scale goes like this: whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. I'm going to write that in the comments, okay? So major scale pattern, whole, half, whole, half. And I'll put this here too, because we'll do this quickly. Minor scale pattern is a little different. And I'm not going to say it aloud so that we don't get confused, because we're sticking with major. Okay, so the major scale, let's start on C again. We start on C because it's all white keys. You kind of can't go wrong if you're starting in the key of C major. So to build a C major scale, look at this pattern in the comments. So whole, half, whole, half. What does that mean? Okay, so my first step from C to D is a whole step. From D to E is another whole step. Now here's my first half step, E to F. Okay, got it? Now I have whole, half left. So from F to G, whole step. G to A, whole step. A to B, whole step. And my last half step is from B to C. That's just a half step. Now this pattern, it's going to sound the same if we're playing that pattern of intervals. It doesn't matter what pitch we start on. So a C major scale, an A major scale, same quality to the sound, even though they're higher or lower in pitch. So now you've got everything you need to build a major scale, walking through from one pitch to the next, either in a whole step or half step pattern. To make your life a little easier though, go down in your resource list, actually jump down to where it says major scales and minor scales. First, click major scales. So this website is pianoscales.org/major. And this actually takes the guesswork out of it for you. So it shows you how to play a C major scale, and then it goes through all these different types of major scale. If you scroll down, you'll notice that whole enharmonic thing we were talking about before, how G sharp and A flat are the same thing, or D sharp and E flat are the same thing. So it does include that. So scroll down. I really like this particular resource because it shows you on the piano, the blue keys are the keys that you would be pressing in order to play that particular scale. So hop over, look at D major with me and see the pitches without even thinking, you can play, okay? Just using my eyes. D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Easy. Now, for you at home, if you don't have a keyboard, you might have a virtual keyboard, and this site, 2 separate tabs will, help you out there. But let's just check this, make sure it's correct, right? That major scale pattern, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Let's look to see if D major follows that. It will, but D to E, okay, we see that's a whole step. E to F sharp, another whole step. F sharp to G, that's a half step. G to A to B, and B to C sharp, all whole steps, and then half step between C sharp and D. Okay, so I want to talk right now about scale versus key. So if I am playing a C major scale, if I say I'm going to play you a C major scale, that means I'm starting and ending on C, and I'm following that pattern. If I played this, that's not a complete C major scale. That's a 2-octave C major scale. I started and I ended on Cs. Now, if I played notes that belong in the C major scale, but not in that order, not in the C major scale order, we would say I'm in the key of C. So for example, if I played any white key, that's why we're starting with C, because it's so easy to explain. If I played any white key, let's say I start on C, okay, that was not a C major scale, obviously. It was a melody within the key of C. I didn't hit any notes that didn't belong in the key of C. So when you're singing a song in a certain key, so let's actually look up an example. Good, well-known song of the moment. The first artist that comes to mind is Billie Eilish. I don't know if you guys listen to Billie Eilish, but let's look up. Actually, a lot of her songs are going to be in minor. Someone in the comments, give me an example of a happy-sounding kind of new song, and we'll see what key it's in. Harry's asking, why do you use flats if the same key, for example, if you're, C sharp versus D flat? So Harry, the reason for that, the first reason has to do with just ease of reading. So if you look at this piano major scales chart with me, so we technically could play this as C sharp or D flat major. Now, if I played C sharp major, what I'd end up with is C sharp, D sharp, E sharp. What is E sharp? Because we don't have a key between E and F. So E sharp is just F. And that's more confusing than we really want to deal with when we're playing music. That's the short answer, is that some keys you'll end up including pitches that don't technically exist, and you have to spell them that way, and it's just not cool. So rather, instead of starting on naming it C sharp, if I started on D flat, now I'm playing D flat, E flat, F. Oh, that's nice. That's much nicer. G flat, A flat, B flat, C, D flat. So that's the quick answer. The second answer is that you wouldn't have, within a major or minor scale, we don't skip any pitches. And if you wanted to make this scale, like if you wanted to eliminate E sharp, so maybe you'd say, well, why can't I just go C sharp, D sharp, F? That's because your next pitch that belongs in the scale is a half step. So that would be F to F sharp. And that's even more confusing, to have a scale that uses more than one kind of F in it. So it's short answer for ease of reading and playing. So it just makes more sense. Okay, great. Tanya suggested shallow. I'm gonna go with shallow because I know it. So if I type in what key is shallow in, the song is, this doesn't matter. It's composed in the key of G major. What does that mean? You know what that means now. So if we find this scale, find your G major scale on pianoscales.org/major. So what this means, if a key is in G major, that song will, for the most part, only be using the pitches that belong within that key. The pitches that belong in the key of G major comprise the G major scale. So of course, the melody of Shallow does not just walk through the G major scale, it jumps around, but it only is using the pitches that belong within that scale. We'll jump back to minor scales in a little bit, but I want to start talking about chords because this is the other big component of what key a song is in. So please go with me to, in your resource list, chords within every key. It's pianokeyboardguide.com/chords by key. Please click that. Okay, it might look a little bit confusing, but it's actually not too bad. So if you scroll down and you see the colored chart, there's yellow, blue, and green. You'll see all the major keys, including the, ones that we might not use that often, like C sharp. But all of them are represented there. So if we're looking at major keys, what is this Roman numeral business? These Roman numerals refer to the chords that are found within a key. So let's go back to C. I know we're going to use Shallow as an example, but this is the easiest to walk through on the key of C. So if you play C, skip the next note and play E, skip the next note and play G. I know you might not be able to do that on your laptop or device, but I'll do it for you. So if I play C, E, and G, we call that a C major chord. The reason we call it a C major chord is because the first interval, or from the first to the middle pitch, is an interval of a major third. So I'll quickly walk through what that is. So you already learned what is a half step and what is a whole step. Another way to name that is minor second and major second. So we already learned, okay, C to C sharp is a half step or a minor second. C to D is a whole step, also called a major second. C to E flat that's a minor third. And C to E is a major third. Now, with my younger students, we usually we make it really, really simple, and I tell them minor sounds sad and major sounds happy. Now, for you, you're learning about music theory, and so you also know now that a minor third is comprised of 1, 2, 3 half steps. And a major third is comprised of 4 half steps. So if you walk up a half step at a time, C, C sharp, D, E flat, there's our minor third. C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, there's our major third. Okay, going back to the key of C major. We already know the key of C major includes the pitches C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Easy peasy. Now, there are certain chords that belong within that key as well, because songs are more than just the melody that's sung. Songs are also built using what we call chords, the instrumental, whatever the guitarist or the pianist is playing. Usually that's chords that accompany the melody. So typically, the chords also will belong in that key. So if I'm looking at the key of C, we just played a C major chord, C, E, G. If I walk up, if you do have a keyboard in front of you and you're using this finger, and this finger, and you move that pattern up to the right, now you're playing D, F, A. That's called a D minor chord. And listen to the quality of it. It has that sad sound. Move up to the right again. E. Skip a key and play the next one. G. Skip a key and play the next one. B. E, G, B. E minor. And going on up the scale, we have F major, G, A minor, B diminished, and back to C major. So now with shallow, looking at the key of G, now we know, all right, the melody is going to use the pitches G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Piano major scales, that's where we're getting that information. And now this is telling us the chords that belong in the key of G. So I want you to look up Shallow, Lady Gaga, chords. And the source that I use for chords is Ultimate Guitar. I know it's guitar, we're playing piano here, but it doesn't matter. You'll see, I'll include this in the chat really quick. And Isaiah's asking, does this stuff work with guitar too? I play guitar, that's why I'm asking. Yes, exactly. So right now we're looking at chords that you can read on guitar or keyboard, doesn't matter what instrument you're playing. So if you follow that link in the chat, you'll see the chords for shallow. And what chords are used? See, Isaiah, you can have guitar chords where it shows you what the frets will look like. If you play ukulele, you can see what the ukulele will look like. And piano, really wonderful new feature that Ultimate Guitar just added. By the way, you don't have to subscribe or pay for Ultimate Guitar. You can just use the desktop version. If you get the app, that's when I think you'll have to pay. At least for the pro version you would, but I'm just on my desktop. I don't think I'm even signed in and it's fully functional. So looking at shallow chords, and for fun, go ahead and where you see guitar, ukulele, and piano, click piano. since most of us are going to be using the virtual piano today. And it'll show you which chords belong in this song, all the chords that are used. So a C sharp minor, and you can see here how to play it. A B, an E, A, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, and an F sharp. All right, so let's cross-reference. With the key of G, you guys, I was transposed. I'm so sorry. I was transposed and didn't even know it. Okay, I untransposed, and now I'm going to tell you the actual chords. So sorry about that. Okay, we're in the key of G. The chords are E minor, D, G, C, A minor. By the way, if you see the the letter plus a little M, that means minor. So A minor, B minor, and then A major. Interesting. So cross-reference that with our chart of piano chords and look at the key of G, all the chords that belong in there: G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. What do we have? Do they all fit? E minor, D, G, C, A minor, B minor, yes. The only one that does not technically fit within the key is A major. So that happens sometimes. You might get some chords and some pitches that don't technically belong in the key. It can work. There's many examples of that. But it is kind of well, I'm not going to say breaking the rule or an exception to the rule, but it is outside of the key. But for the most part, this song, the melody, all the chords except for A major, all belong in the key of G. So now we said that we would go back to minor keys. So if you look at your resource list and click on pianoscales.org/minor or minor scales I had written next to it, there's a couple different kinds of minor scales, but we won't spend too much time on this, but same idea with minor, what we covered with major scales, how it follows that certain pattern, the whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. The minor scale pattern, I'll copy and paste it here again. Minor scale pattern, whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. So if you walked through, you can check this minor scale chart. And you could also, I don't think I included this, the minor, the chords by key. Oh, good. I was wrong. If you scroll down on the piano keyboard guide, chords by key, if you scroll down, it'll show you the chords in all minor keys as well. Yay, wonderful. You might be wondering what a diminished chord is. Really, really quickly. We know what a minor chord is because it has a minor third on the bottom. And we know what a major chord is because it has a major third on the bottom. A diminished chord has a minor third on top of another minor third. And it sounds even scarier and mysterious than just a plain old minor chord. That's minor. This is diminished. So you might come across that in pop music. I don't think you're going to find that many diminished chords. Most pop music is going to be built on major chords and minor chords, pretty basic. Sometimes they'll throw in what's called a seventh, which you don't need to worry about, not yet. there was a question. Ramisha is asking, does that make it contemporary with the A chord not being in the key? I don't think it's specific to contemporary music. I think there's plenty of non-chord keys and pitches within classical music as well. So I don't think it's specific to contemporary music. A kind of fun video that some of you guys might have seen explores how many songs are built on this one chord progression. So I just want to share that with you so you can watch this later. Anyways, just throwing that out there. All right, so how does this apply to you as a singer when you're doing a warm-up and then when you're singing a song? So most warm-ups, like I mentioned long time ago, are built within the major scale or the major key. It's rare that we're warming up in a minor key. We could go da 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 da, but normally we're just using ba 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 ba. We're using the major scale. So basically, two kinds of warm-up patterns to be aware of. The first is stepwise patterns. So if you ever see written down 1 2 3 2 1 or 1 2 3 4 5 4 3 2 1, those are all referring to scale degrees. So if I'm in the key of, well, I was just in the key of A, so let's do this. Key of A, 1 in the key of A is A. 2 is B. 3 is C sharp. 4 is D. And 5 is E. So if my pattern goes 1 2 3 2 1, it's A, B, C sharp, B, A. If my pattern is 1 2 3 4 5 4 3 2 1, it's all those pitches I just named. A, B, C sharp, D, E, D, C sharp, B, A. So that's the first kind of pattern, a stepwise pattern that's just walking through the major scale, maybe going part way or maybe going all the way. A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and maybe even back down. The second kind of pattern is called an arpeggiated pattern. So a chord is typically 3 or more pitches played at the same time. An arpeggio is the pitches of that chord played separately. So this is a chord. This is an arpeggio. Same pitches. And again, here's an arpeggio. So we're skipping around, but it's following a specific pattern. So if you have a chorded or arpeggiated pattern, that scale degree number would look like maybe 1 3 5 3 1. That's a pretty common one. So again, if I'm in the key of A is my 1, my 3 is C sharp, my 5 is E, and then back to C sharp and back to A. Here's where it gets a little challenging. Within a warm-up, we're purposefully walking through all keys. So we're not skipping and we're not staying in one key the whole time. Typically what your warm-up is going to sound like is maybe it starts here. Ba, 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 and then you'll hear the piano going up or going down. Ba, 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 ba. Ba, 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 ba. The pattern is staying consistent, but my starting note, in essence, my key keeps changing. So if I'm starting on the key of A, C sharp, E, C sharp, E, and you hear the piano move up, What's a half step up from A? Find it on your keyboard. We could call that A sharp or B flat. B flat, D, F, B flat, F, D, E. I'm still playing 1, 3, 5, 8, 5, 3, 1. But I'm in a new key, and it's going to keep changing keys. So we're going to move up from there to the key of B. B, D sharp, F sharp, B, F sharp, D sharp, B. Had to think about it for a second. And move up again. C, E, G, C, G, E, C. So you'll notice that each pitch subsequently is moving up by 1/2 step at a time. Or if we were going in the opposite direction, it's moving down 1/2 step at a time. That's, I think, the trickiest thing about a vocal warm-up is that you're changing keys constantly. And so if you want to be checking your pitch accuracy, you'll have to be kind of fluent in music theory and moving from one key to the next. So you do have the tools for that. I would say within a vocal warm-up, it's moving pretty quickly. So there might not be time for you to go B flat, D, F, and check your pitch the entire time. So for that reason, again, a lot of singers just learn by rote or listen and repeat. When you are singing a song, like we said before, typically a song is going to stay in one key. So I want to give you a couple examples in the public domain so we can play them with no copyright issues. The first is Auld Lang Syne. It's a kind of like a New Year's song. So this is in our resource list. If you click on, it's the christmasmusicsongs.com, Auld Lang Syne. Scroll down and you'll notice that there's a PDF version of this in every key. The key that they have first that they just display is the key of G. And we'll notice here, okay, it starts on a G chord and then a D chord, G, C, G, D. Is that a B? And an E minor, A minor, D, G. Okay, anyways. So even if you don't read sheet music, and like I said, we're not getting into note reading today. However, it's very helpful for all of my students, especially, well, not especially, but for all my students, including the ones who don't read sheet music, to look at the sheet music when they're singing because it's a map of the melody. Essentially, all you need to know for now is that lower on the page means lower in pitch and higher on the page means higher in pitch. So I'll decode this for you. If we're looking at this in the key of G, it's going from first note is a D, second note is a G. Should old acquaintance be forgot? Yeah, okay, cool. That was correct. So even if you don't know that's a D to a G, you can see, okay, that's a lower note to a higher note. And then to the next note, it's just a little bit lower. So even just that sensibility of it looks really high or it looks like a big leap or just a small step can be really, really helpful when you're learning a song. I am a fan of putting songs in a good key for your voice. And how do you do that? Again, you either need to dive into music theory or trial and error until you find a key that fits. And a lot of singers ask, is there one specific key that is going to be good for my voice? And the answer is no. So as a singer, if I find, for example, Auld Lang Syne, I already know this is not going to be a good key for me because it's going to go higher than I really want to go. So I would probably should old acquaintance be forgot. I would probably put this in the key of C, but that's just because I know my voice really well. And I also know music theory. You don't need to know music theory in order to do that. It'll just take a little bit longer. But what we are doing, next resource, click the link that says karaoke tracks, and then karaoke version. Okay, so we'll go back to shallow, okay, because that was our example before. So if you type in shallow, it'll come up. It's a very popular song. And click on that. Now you probably see a price here and you're like, wait, I don't want to buy a track. You don't have to buy it. So click, once we've got to the page, shallow, a star is born, blah, blah, blah. It tells us the tempo, it tells us the key, it tells us the duration. Now, what you can do to determine a good key for your voice, if the original is not a good key for your voice, is play and sing along with the cover version on this website. So if I click this, it's not gonna, the sound won't come out because my sound is coming through my mic. But if you click this at home, see there's an instrumental version, cover version with Bradley Cooper's part, with Lady Gaga's part, and then with all the voices. So if you click cover version MP3, click it, it's not gonna be Bradley and Lady Gaga, it's okay. You'll hear where the melody is, and then look right here, key. Right now it's set at 0. And remember the original's in the key of G. If that's too high for you, so if you're trying to sing along with that song and it's going higher than you can sing comfortably, you'll want to go arrow down. And where does that put it? It tells us, oh, cool, now we're in the key of F sharp. And again, if you click play, you'll be able to hear it in that new key. And you can keep doing this. Maybe the song is too low for you. You need to kick it up a little bit. So you can go click up to G sharp, to A sharp, to B, until you find the spot that's comfy for your voice. Then typically what I'll do, I mean, if you like the quality of that track, sure, support the site. It's $1.99 for a karaoke track. That's not bad. But I know a lot of us are used to getting things for free. And so you could go on YouTube, find a track that you like. If there's a download link, you can download that track. And then once you found, let's say you found shallow, you're like, you know what, G's a little too low for me. I want to put it in the key of A. So say you've used karaoke version for that, and you're like, I don't want to buy it. I already have a track that I like. I just want to kick it up to the key of A. Then what you do is look at the next link on the resource list. It says shift the key of a track. Online tone generator is one. Audio Alter is another. You don't need to download software. And again, these are free resources. So click, just for today, click Audio Alter. I think that one's a little just clearer to look at. And you would go browse computer, you drag in the track that you already have, MP3, whatever it is. I'm just gonna drag in a random track. Okay. And then it gives me some options. It gives me, make sure my, okay. It gives me options, change in semitones. And you can see, you can drag that little orange dot. You can drag it to the right. That's going to be putting it higher, or drag it to the left. That's putting it lower. It will start to distort if you move too far away from the original key. So if you move it up, it's going to start to sound kind of like chipmunky. And if you move it down, it's going to start to sound a little monstrous. Just fair warning. So sometimes you can find a track that's already in that higher or lower key on YouTube, especially if it's a really well-known song or a song that's notoriously hard to sing a lot of times. Like, for example, let's see if I type in shallow karaoke lower key, one exists already. So maybe it's not going to be low enough for you, but there are some options because it's a very well-known song. So just throwing that out there. You don't need to go through the hassle of shifting the key yourself. It might already exist for you. And then again, you could purchase the track for $1.99 in the specific key that you found that feels good. And a quick note for female and male singers, if you, how do I put this? If a song is sung by a soprano, typically a tenor will be able to sing that the octave below. Same thing, and this works, vice versa. So if a song is sung by an alto, typically a bass or baritone will be able to sing that song without shifting the key too much, but an octave lower. So you already know what an octave is. If my melody is going up to, let's say, C5, so let's say I'm listening to a version of a soprano singing Auld Lang Syne, and I'm a tenor or even a bass or baritone, and I'm like, I cannot sing that high. What you would do is you would sing that same melody, but the octave below. And a lot of you tenor and basses are doing this instinctively. So when you hear, you're probably already singing ba 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 ba. And if I played this on the keyboard, that's G, C, B, C. Ba, 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 or ba 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 ba. Anyways, so that's also an option for you if the song is so high or so low for you. You might be able to get away with not changing the key, but just singing in the octave above or the octave below where the original singer sings. For example, if I was going to sing I Walk the Line by Johnny Cash, there's no way I would be singing in his octave. I would sing along, but I would just be the octave above. And most singers can kind of pick that out, but some singers do struggle. And so I always recommend if ear training or pitch matching is something that you kind of struggle with, I recommend using a karaoke app like Smule or another app that analyzes your pitch in real time. So it has the track that you're singing to, and it's analyzing what you're singing and showing you how far are you from the melody, or are you spot on. Okay, wow. That was a lot to cover. I know it was a whole hour, but it was a lot to cover. I want to point you to a 16-minute overview of music theory. So if you watched this entire video, congrats. This 16-minute overview, I actually watched it this morning before recommending it, and it's great. So it's a really, really good overview, and you can use this to review now that you know some of these terms. So that's also in the source list. It's the last one on there, is 16-minute overview of music theory. Towards the end, he starts talking about the circle of fifths, and I think he might lose you at the very, very end. But up until that point, it's great. Okay, quickly, some questions. I know we're technically at time, but if you've got some burning questions, I'd love to answer for you. Harry's asking, when we sing major or minor chords, when do we use head voice versus chest or normal voice? I get confused when to raise my voice and when to keep it normal. Harry, it doesn't matter the quality of the chord that you're singing. What matters in determining what register to use is the pitch. So, Harry, I'm going to suggest that you check out actually last week's live video, we talked about determining your range, and then there's also some resources in that video description for how to determine your vocal range. And specifically, what you're going to be looking for is your passaggio. There's this point in your range at which chest voice kind of stops working or it starts to get strained. And that's the point at which you'd want to lighten into head voice. So really it's singer specific. But check out last week's video and then specifically look in the video description. If you don't have time to watch it, there are some resources to help you determine your range. And essentially, or the short answer is, for a high pitch that you can't hit in chest voice, that's when you're going to go to head voice. So in my range, if I'm singing da 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 da, right here I'm starting to kind of strain da da, I'm going to switch to head voice. Da da da. I might even switch sooner than that. Da 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 da. Okay. Isaiah is saying, did you see the link? I did not see the link. I did not see the link that you shared. But maybe I would have to scroll back a little bit. If you want to share it again, that would be cool. Or just say what it is instead of the link. Maybe you're not allowed to share links in the comments. I don't know. And Harry, do you know how I can identify my voice range? Yes. Again, last week's actually covered how to determine your range. So we walked through that process. And then, yeah, Isaiah, I'm not seeing that link in the comments. So maybe it's not allowed in the YouTube live chat. I'm not really sure. Tyler's saying you enjoyed how I explained it. Thank you so much. Augustina's asking, what about the app Star Maker? I'm guessing that's a karaoke app. I've not used that, so I can't say anything about it. But if it does the same thing that Smule does in terms of analyzing your pitch in real time, then good choice. And so when singing a song, we need to hit the notes that are in the key. How do we know what notes the singer is hitting? So two ways that you can do this. Some beginning singers will look up a version of the song with the vocal isolated. So maybe it exists on YouTube, maybe it doesn't, but you can search for this. So for example, if you're singing Shallow, if you look up Shallow vocal isolated or vocal line only, that might exist for you. And if you use a chromatic tuner at the same time, it'll be able to tell you what those pitches are. Another way that you can do that, I said no sheet music today, but that is the second way, and maybe the easier way, is to look up the sheet music and start to decode that. So look up a little quick guide on how to figure out what pitches are displayed on the sheet music. It's actually not too bad. We just didn't have time for that today. But so that's another way you could. So two ways: one, finding an isolated vocal, and two, finding the sheet music and decoding that. Most singers are kind of able to sing along even if they don't know what the pitches are. But that's why I said use something like Smule, because that will show you how close you are to the correct pitches, without you having to know. I'm singing, a D to G. If the melody is ba ba and you're going ba ba, it'll show you, okay, you're way too low. If you're going ba ba, then it'll show you, okay, you're in tune. And do the notes change if I need to change the key? Like if I need to make it lower? Yes. So if you are changing the key of a song, everything shifts. The chords used and the pitches will all shift. And Last question. Tyler's asking, so should you isolate an instrumental and put it in a chromatic tuner to get the exact pitches? Tyler, I don't, unless you have like a pretty advanced software situation, your standard chromatic tuner can only analyze one pitch at a time. So if you put the instrumental in, I do know some software can analyze and tell you, oh, this is the key, or these are the chords being played, but most folks here are using a chromatic tuner that can only analyze one pitch at a time. So I think if you want to know what the instrumental situation is, go to Ultimate Guitar, and that'll show you the chords being played. And Isaiah, no, I still don't see the URL, but I'll check in the video comments. I think just maybe the live comments, we can't do that. All right, guys, I will let you go, but quickly, I will give you a little preview of what to expect next week. Let's see. Oh boy, oh boy. Here we go. A motorcycle just in time. Okay. So next week, that is August 1st. It's a Saturday for me. I think it should be a Saturday for most of us, depending on time zones. Okay. And the topic is learning to harmonize. So we will have some fun with that. I'm excited. All right, guys, have a good rest of your week and week. See ya.